Picture this, right? You are standing in the electric atmosphere of Wembley Stadium.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's March 31st, 2026. The air is crisp, the floodlights are just blinding, and you've got over 79,000 fans packed into the stands.
Setting the scene. I love it.
Right. And England, I mean, one of the world's absolute footballing giants, they're playing on home turf.
And everyone expects a win.
Exactly. It's the final stages of their prep before the World Cup squad is announced. The expectation is just a routine, confidence-building victory.
A walk in the park.
Yeah, a walk in the park. Thomas Tuchel is pacing the touchline. But instead of a comfortable win, the crowd is stunned into total silence.
Utter silence.
And then the silence turns into boos. Because England isn't just losing, they're being completely suffocated.
Suffocated that is exactly the right word.
It was crazy to watch.
It was a monumental shock to the English system. But, if you've been tracking the global tactical shifts over the last 4 years, it was this profound statement of intent.
Oh, absolutely.
The ease with which they swatted aside England in that match, completely neutralizing players like Phil Foden and Cole Palmer, it was breathtaking.
They made them look average.
They really did. They didn't just survive Wembley. They didn't park the bus and brace for a draw,
Right.
They actively controlled the narrative of the game. They dictated exactly where England was allowed to have the ball, and then they just trapped them.
And that team is exactly what we're focusing on in our deep dive today.
I can't wait.
We are looking at the Japanese national football team, universally known as the Samurai Blue, right? And their meticulously planned quest to conquer the 2026 World Cup in North America.
It's a massive topic.
It is. We've pulled together an absolute mountain of material for you today. We're talking deep tactical breakdowns, official squad lists, the latest injury reports from European clubs.
The injury stuff is wild, by the way.
Oh, we will get into it. And some really fascinating historical analyses of the Japanese footballing infrastructure just to figure out exactly how dangerous this team really is.
Because the narrative has changed, hasn't it?
Completely. The days of Japan just being like, fun underdog story, a team you politely clap for in the group stage, those days are officially over.
They absolutely are. If we take a bird's eye view of the landscape right now, the 2026 World Cup features this expanded 48-team format.
Right, which changes everything.
It does. The margins for error are totally different. The physical gauntlet is so much longer. You have to survive more matches, which means squad depth and tactical flexibility are at an absolute premium.
You can't just rely on a starting 11 anymore.
Exactly. But Japan is arriving not just hoping to participate in the knockout rounds. They are ranked 18th or 19th in the world, depending on the week, and they absolutely dismantle their qualifying campaign.
The numbers are insane.
We are talking about a record of 51 goals scored and only 3 conceded.
Wait, 51-3?
51-3.
That is an astonishing goal difference. Even against weaker regional opposition, that's absurd.
It shows a ruthlessness that past iterations of this team simply didn't possess.
Yeah, they used to be so polite on the pitch. Now they're currently setting up their base camp in Nashville, Tennessee, right? Utilizing the high-performance facilities of Nashville SC.
Beautiful facilities down there.
Oh, incredible. And they are arriving as a genuine, terrifying global threat. So if you are finalizing your World Cup bracket right now, or, if you're just fascinated by the evolution of global sports infrastructure.
How a nation literally engineers a superpower.
Exactly. If you're into that, this deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you watch the beautiful game this summer.
And that engineering aspect is really where we have to start. Because what Japan is doing right now isn't an accident.
It's not a fluke.
Not at all. It's not the result of some random golden generation of players coincidentally arriving at the same time, like we saw with, say, Belgium a decade ago.
Right, yeah.
It is highly calculated.
Yeah.
To understand how they walked into Wembley and took England apart, we really have to look at what their federation calls the discipline of becoming.
The discipline of becoming. I love that phrase. I was reading through the documentation on the JFA's 100-year vision, and honestly, the sheer scale of it is staggering.
It's unlike anything else in world football.
It really is. Most football federations, they plan in 4-year World Cup cycles, right? If they have a bad tournament, they fire the manager, rip up the playbook, and just start from scratch.
The classic panic button.
Exactly. The JFA is planning in decades. And there is a massive structural shift happening right now in the first half of 2026 to support this vision.
Oh, the league split.
Yes. They are actually splitting the domestic J-League season to shift to a European-style autumn-spring calendar.
It's an administrative earthquake. I mean, think about the logistics of that for a second.
Right. I was looking at the financials and the broadcast contracts involved. You're telling me they upended a multi-billion-dollar domestic league schedule?
Yep.
Completely changing when their fans watch games, shifting their entire corporate sponsorship cycle, just so the national team isn't tired in June.
That is exactly what they are doing. And honestly, the sports science behind it is bulletproof.
Break that down for me.
So, historically, a player in the J-League would be on a completely different physiological cycle compared to a player in the English Premier League or the German Bundesliga.
Because of the seasons?
Exactly. The J-League traditionally ran from February to December. So when a Summer World Cup rolled around, the domestic Japanese players were right in the middle of their grueling club season.
While the European guys are exhausted.
Right. The European-based players were coming off a grueling 9-month campaign. So you had a national team split into two completely different rhythms of fatigue, peak, V02 max, and muscle recovery.
It's a physiological nightmare. I mean, you have half your squad dealing with end-of-season micro tears in their hamstrings, and the other half is trying to peak mid-season.
You can't train a squad like that.
You really can't. But by synchronizing the domestic calendar with Europe, players can transfer to UEFA clubs seamlessly without missing a beat physically.
Which is huge for their development.
Massive. And more importantly, when Hajime Moriyasu gathers the national team for international breaks, everyone is at the exact same stage of physical conditioning.
It completely eliminates that fatigue discrepancy that used to just plague them in the late stages of major tournaments.
We've seen that so many times. Right?
Oh, constantly. We've seen Japanese teams in the past play brilliant football for 60 minutes and then completely collapse physically in the final third of the game.
They just run out of gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The JFA recognized that, hey, no amount of tactical genius can overcome a fundamental physiological deficit. So they changed the entire infrastructure of their nation's sport to fix it.
That is just a ruthless commitment to the national team, and that infrastructure feeds directly into how they play under head coach Hajime Moriyasu.
The chameleon.
Yes. I want to dive into his tactical identity because the analyses universally describe his overarching philosophy as the chameleon.
It's the perfect descriptor, honestly, but it's incredibly difficult to execute.
Why is that?
Well, most elite managers are dogmatic, right? A Pep Guardiola team is going to play possession-based positional play. A Diego Simeone team is going to defend in a deep, aggressive block.
They force their style on you.
Right. They force their identity onto the opponent. Moriyasu, on the other hand, has trained Japan to have no fixed ego. They have two distinct elite-level modes.
Okay, what's mode 1?
Mode 1 is against weaker teams, say, in their Asian Football Confederation qualifying matches. They dictate the tempo. They averaged like 69.2% possession in ASC qualifying.
Wow, almost 70%.
Yeah, they break teams down methodically with short, intricate, highly technical passing structures.
But wait, isn't there a massive danger in not having one set identity? I mean, if you're a chameleon, do you risk forgetting your true colors when the pressure is on?
It's a valid concern.
Because we've seen managers constantly tinker with formations to match the opposition, and it usually results in the players looking totally confused on the pitch. They lack that ingrained muscle memory.
It's a classic critique for sure. But Japan circumvents it by keeping their defensive triggers identical, regardless of where they are on the pitch.
So the foundation stays the same.
Exactly. When they slip the script against the traditional footballing giants, the underlying principles remain. And if we want the ultimate proof of concept, we just have to look back at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
Oh, the Spain game.
Yes. Japan beat Spain, a team that historically defines itself by hoarding the ball with a historic World Cup record low, 17.7% possession.
That stat still breaks my brain every time I hear it. 17.7%. You go 80 minutes of a 90-minute match just chasing shadows.
It sounds miserable, but they are entirely comfortable seeding the ball.
How do they survive that, though?
They drop into a heavily centralized structure, essentially packing the middle of the pitch with disciplined banks of players. They deny any space between the lines.
Right.
But here's a crucial mechanism. It's not a passive low block. They're setting traps. Yeah, they allow the opponent's center backs to have the ball, but the moment a pass is played into a specific zone, say, to a pivot midfielder facing his own goal, That is the trigger.
It's weaponized patience. I look at it like the transmission of a sports car, you know? You don't just stay in first gear the whole race.
I like that analogy.
When they win the ball back in that low block, they don't look to secure possession and build out slowly to catch their breath. They shift instantly into top gear.
It's a sprint.
Yeah, they look to score in under 10 seconds. They turn defensive recoveries into vertical slicing attacks before the opponent can even counterpress.
The transition speed is devastating. And what's really fascinating is where they're getting the inspiration for this high-intensity pressing and organization.
Where from?
They aren't just sending scouts to copy Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool or Julian Nagelsmann's Germany. They are actively looking across the Sea of Japan.
Oh, you mean the 2002 South Korea blueprint?
Precisely. They have heavily studied the high press, relentless movement tactics utilized by South Korea during their miraculous run to the semifinals in 2002 under Gus Hiddink.
Wow, that is wild.
Right. For Japan to actively study and integrate the specific conditioning and pressing models of their fiercest regional rival shows a remarkable level of pragmatism.
No ego at all.
Zero. They have stripped away national pride in favor of pure, objective efficiency. If a rival did it better, steal it, refine it, and use it.
Okay, so we have a chameleon system, I have weaponized patience, and we have blindingly fast transitions. But here is the friction point for me. You can't just draw a 10-second transition on a whiteboard and expect it to work in real life.
Oh, definitely not.
Ceding 80% possession to a team like Spain or England sounds great in theory, but in reality, it is exhausting. You are constantly shifting side to side.
Your legs burn just watching it.
Exactly. You can't absorb that much pressure unless the guys in the middle of the pitch have superhuman stamina and positional intelligence. So who is actually executing this?
That brings us to the core spine of the team. And Moriyasu has built a spine forged entirely in the most demanding leagues on the planet.
It's a serious roster.
The intimidation factor that used to exist when Japanese players faced European giants, it is completely gone.
Well, let's talk about the man at the very center of this. The captain, Wataru Endo. Every tactical breakdown I read literally refers to him as the duel king.
Such a great nickname.
It really is. He is operating at the base of the midfield for Liverpool in the Premier League, and he is the absolute physical steel of this Japanese team.
Endo is the anchor. And honestly, his development under Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool was the final piece of the puzzle for Moriyasu.
How so?
Because in a system that relies on absorbing pressure and launching rapid counterattacks, you need a player who can act as an impenetrable screen in front of the center backs.
And that's Endo.
That is Wataru Endo. He has this uncanny spatial awareness. He doesn't just run around aimlessly, you know. He constantly scans the pitch, anticipating exactly where the opponent's transition pass is going to go.
He reads the game.
Yes. And he steps into that passing lane a fraction of a second before the ball even arrives.
So he kills the opponent's counterattack before it even materializes.
Exactly. He wins the physical battles, the duels in the middle of the park, and by doing so, he provides the defensive security that allows the Japanese wingbacks to push high up the pitch the exact moment Japan recovers the ball.
He gives them the freedom to go forward.
He is the tactical disciplinarian. Without Endo doing the dirty work, the creative players have to drop too deep to get the ball. And that 10-second transition we talked about, it becomes impossible.
Makes total sense. And behind him, you have this incredible central defensive partnership in Takehiro Tomiyasu and Ko Itakura.
Oh, the Ajax boys.
Yes. What is so striking here is that they both play for Ajax in the Eredivisie.
That club connection is an unbelievable advantage in international football. I mean, national team managers usually get their players for maybe 10 days at a time.
Not enough time at all.
It's really not. Trying to build defensive chemistry, knowing exactly when your partner is going to step up, when they're going to drop, how they communicate blindside runs, it takes months.
But they do it every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tomiyasu and Itakura practice together every single day in Amsterdam. They have the principles of total football, of playing out from the back under pressure, drilled into them daily.
Looking at Tomiyasu's specific metrics from Ajax this season, his recovery pace is terrifying for a guy who is 1.87 meters tall.
He is a beast.
He is so robust. If a team somehow manages to bypass Endo in the midfield, Tomiyasu has the pure athletic speed to track back and extinguish the fire.
Absolutely.
And we can't talk about the defense without bringing up the absolute anomaly that is Yuto Nagatomo.
Nagatomo is, frankly, defying all known laws of sports science.
It's crazy.
He is heading to his 5th World Cup at the age of 39.
39.
To play as a fullback, which is arguably the most physically demanding position on the pitch in the modern game. At 39 years old, at a World Cup level, it is absurd.
How is he doing it?
Just unbelievable discipline. His longevity and leadership in the dressing room provide a vital psychological anchor for the younger players. He has seen everything.
The highs and the lows.
Yeah, he has experienced the heartbreak of past tournaments. He is the cultural bridge between the old guard and this new, highly engineered generation.
Moving slightly up the pitch, there is a player whose evolution I find absolutely fascinating. Daichi Kamada.
Oh, Kamada, what a story.
Right. He plays for Crystal Palace now, and he is a walking case study in the Japanese adaptability we were talking about earlier.
Definitely.
If you look at his time in Germany a few years ago, he was known primarily as a creative classic number 10, a luxury player, a guy who floated between the lines and slipped through balls to the striker.
A very elegant player, but not exactly a physical enforcer.
Exactly. But to survive in the Premier League and to be essential to Moriyasu's high-pressing system, he has completely reinvented himself.
Yeah, too.
He led Japan in the qualifying rounds with an average of 2.1 tackles per 90 minutes. He turned himself from an artist into a tackling machine.
Kamada's transformation is emblematic of Moriyasu's ruthless demands. Kamada recognized that technical skill wasn't enough to secure his place in this specific tactical system.
Right, he couldn't just rely on his passing.
Right, he had to increase his defensive output massively. Now, he operates as this industrious box-to-box engine alongside Endo. He presses, he breaks up play.
But he still has the vision.
That's the beauty of Kamada, because he still retains that elite technical ability from his days as a pure playmaker. His first pass after winning the ball is almost always perfectly weighted and forward-thinking.
He triggers the attack.
He is the immediate catalyst for the counterattack. When Endo wins the ball, he gives it to Kamada, and Kamada instantly launches the vertical strike.
It's a deadly combination. And finally, at the very base of the spine, we have to talk about the goalkeeper.
Zion Suzuki.
This is a crucial area because, historically, if Japan had a weakness, it was finding a truly world-class, physically dominant presence between the posts to deal with the aerial bombardment from European teams. Enter Zion Suzuki. He's 23 years old, playing for Parma in Italy's Serie A.
Suzuki is a physical specimen. I mean, he stands 1.90 meters tall, and playing in Serie A, he is facing some of the most tactically rigorous and physically demanding attacking play in the world every single weekend.
He's getting tested.
Big time.
Yeah.
He gives Japan that massive aerial command on set pieces that they used to lack. But his journey to this specific World Cup has been incredibly fraught.
The injury.
Yeah, in November 2025. He suffered a severe fracture in his left hand.
I was reading the medical reports on that. For a goalkeeper, a hand fracture isn't just about the bone healing, it's about grip strength.
It's everything.
If you lose 5% of your grip strength, a ball that you normally catch cleanly slips through your fingers and falls to a striker for a tap-in.
It affects catching, diving, punching, and honestly, the pure psychological barrier of throwing yourself headfirst into a crowded penalty box and exposing your hands to flying boots.
I can't even imagine.
It's the equivalent of a sprinter tearing an Achilles tendon. To fight his way back from a severe hand fracture just months before the tournament, to undergo the grueling rehab to regain that exact biometric grip strength.
And reclaim his spot.
Yeah, and reclaim his spot as the undisputed #1. It speaks volumes about his mental resilience.
So you have a spine forged in the Premier League, Serie A, and the Eredivisie. When Japan lines up against the Netherlands or England, Wataru Endo is looking across at players he battles every single weekend.
Zion Suzuki faces these elite strikers in Italy.
Exactly. The psychological barrier of playing the Giants is just gone. But, as meticulously planned as the spine is, football is a chaotic sport.
It really is.
And even the strongest spine is useless if the attacking limbs are severed. Which brings us to the absolute earthquake that hit the Japanese roster just weeks before the tournament.
The injury crisis.
Yeah.
It is the one thing you cannot engineer your way out of.
Right. Moriyasu had his plan, his players were peaking, the calendar shift worked, and then disaster strikes. Japan lost 2 of their most vital attacking stars.
Heartbreaking.
Takumi Minamino tore his ACL, and the electric Kaoru Mitoma suffered a severe hamstring injury. Mitoma plays for Brighton, and he is the exact player who scored the winning goal against England at Wembley that we talked about at the top of the show.
And now he's out.
Now he's out.
Mitoma's absence is a monumental, fundamental blow to the chameleon system. He is the ultimate vertical threat.
He's lightning fast.
Right. When Japan absorbs pressure in that deep defensive block, Mitoma is the release valve. His explosive acceleration down the left flank stretches the pitch and forces the opponent's defense to backpedal instantly.
He pushes them back.
He operates brilliantly in the one-on-one isolation situations that the counterattack creates. Without him, the entire geometry of the transition has to change.
I look at it like losing the highest gear in a transmission. The engine in the midfield with Endo and Kamada is still working perfectly. The defense is solid.
But you can't hit top speeds.
Yeah. Right. The car literally cannot achieve vertical top speed without Mitoma. You are forced to rely on slow, grinding torque to move forward. How do you replace his sheer vertical terror?
You can't. You simply cannot just plug another player into the Mitoma role because no one else in the squad possesses his exact physiological profile and Premier League isolation experience.
So what do?
It forces Moriyasu into a tactical pivot. The burden on the flanks now shifts to players like Kido Nakamura, who plays for Reims in France, and Ritsu Doan at Eintracht Frankfurt.
But they are entirely different profiles of wingers, right?
Very different. Nakamura is more of an inverted winger. He likes to receive the ball wide, cut inside onto his stronger foot, and strike the ball or combine with the midfield.
And Doan?
Doan is brilliant at linking play and finding little pockets of space between the opposition's midfield and defense. But neither of them possess the raw, terrifying sprint speed of Mitoma.
Which means, without Mitoma pushing the opponent's defensive line backward, the pitch shrinks.
It does.
Japan might be forced to play a slightly more narrow, possession-heavy style in the final third. And the massive risk there is that against teams who also sit in a low block, teams who refuse to give Japan space behind the defense, Japan could become painfully predictable.
They could.
They might end up making one pass too many around the edge of the penalty area instead of just penetrating it.
That is the danger of losing your ultimate wild card. You became easier to scout. But what I find fascinating is how Moriyasu handled the squad management in the wake of these injuries.
Tell me about it.
It reveals a lot about the culture he has built. Takumi Minamino has a torn ACL. He obviously cannot play a single second of football. Yet Moriyasu is bringing him to North America.
Really?
He is officially traveling with the squad as a mentor.
Wow, it's a brilliant piece of psychological management. Minamino has vast European experience. He is deeply respected in the dressing room, and having his presence maintains a sense of continuity and calm. He is essentially an auxiliary assistant coach who the players view as a peer. But this decision sharply contrasts with another major personnel decision Moriyasu made that genuinely baffled me when I read the squad list.
The Morita exclusion.
Yes. While he kept the injured Minamino close, he actively excluded a perfectly healthy Hidemasa Morita from the squad. Morita is fully fit, he's a highly regarded player in Europe, but he's left at home.
Seems crazy, right?
It makes absolutely zero tactical sense on paper.
It seems baffling until you understand the historical context of Japanese football philosophy. This decision is the ultimate manifestation of what analysts call the no need for a playmaker on the bench theory.
Okay, break that down for me. Why would you not want a playmaker?
Well, historically, Japanese managers have deeply struggled with how to utilize pure traditional playmakers, the classic number 10s.
The guys who orchestrate everything.
Right. These are the elegant players who dictate the game at their own pace, who need the ball at their feet to create, but who often lack the high-intensity defensive work rate required in modern pressing systems.
They don't track back.
Exactly. And we've seen this movie before. Look at Yasuhito Endo in the 2006 World Cup, Ryota Oshima in 2018, or Gaku Shibasaki in Qatar in 2022.
All brilliant players.
All of them were brilliant controlling playmakers. And all of them were benched or saw zero playing time during the actual tournaments.
Because when the tactical plan shifts to ceding possession and pressing like dogs, the luxury playmaker becomes a defensive liability.
Precisely. They become a passenger when you don't have the ball. Japan has always produced incredibly technical 10s. Think of Hidetoshi Nakata, Shunsuke Nakamura, Keisuke Honda, Shinji Kagawa.
Absolute legends.
It is in their footballing DNA.
Yeah.
But Moriyasu's exclusion of Morita indicates he is definitively turning his back on that era.
Yeah.
He is saying no more.
Wow.
He is doubling down on his system. He demands high-intensity workers, players who can press relentlessly for 90 minutes. He doesn't want a static creator sitting on the bench taking up a roster spot if they don't fit the high-speed, high-stress tactical brief.
It's ruthless.
It is. You either fit the physiological demands of the chameleon or you stay home.
So with Mitoma and Minamino out, and the traditional playmakers exiled, who is going to actually score the goals?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because if you are relying on quick transitions, the final pass and the final shot have to be absolutely perfect. Moriyasu has turned to a fascinating mix of established genius and absolute raw, chaotic unpredictability. Let's look at the attacking trident.
The burden of genius falls squarely on the shoulders of Takefusa Kubo. He is 25 years old now, playing for Real Sociedad in Spain's La Liga.
What a player.
When he was a teenager coming through the Barcelona academy system, he was burdened with the nickname of the Japanese Messi.
Which is an impossible, toxic standard for any young player to carry. It usually ruins them.
It absolutely does. But Kubo has matured brilliantly by escaping that shadow. He is now the undisputed creative engine of this team. If we look at how he operates, Kubo thrives in the half spaces.
And for those listening who are visualizing the pitch, he's not hugging the touchline like a traditional winger.
No, not at all.
And he's not standing right in the middle like a striker. He's operating in those awkward, dangerous corridors between the opponent's fullback and center back.
Precisely. That is the hardest area of the pitch to defend because it causes confusion. The fullback thinks the center back has him. The center back thinks the defensive midfielder has him.
He just slips through the cracks.
He does. Kubo has this unique sense of timing and these delicate, sharp touches that draw defenders in, commit them to a tackle, and then he exploits the tiny openings they leave behind.
And his set pieces are lethal.
Oh, absolutely. Furthermore, he is the team's primary set-piece specialist. When you are playing tight, low-scoring tournament matches, a perfectly delivered corner or a free kick from Kubo on the edge of the box could be the entire difference between advancing and going home.
He sounds like the perfect skeleton key to unlock those low blocks we talked about earlier.
He really is.
But when Kubo picks the lock, he needs someone waiting in the penalty area to actually kick the door down and finish the chance. Historically, Japan has played beautiful, intricate football, but they have lacked that ruthless, ugly, clinical penalty box finishing.
Not anymore. Enter Ayase Ueda.
Let's talk about Ueda.
Ueda is the finisher they have been waiting a decade for. He plays for Feyenoord, and he is coming into this World Cup off an incredible season where he won the Eredivisie Golden Boot, scoring 25 goals.
That's massive.
He isn't overly flashy. He is just devastatingly efficient. He provides the clinical target man presence. If Kubo puts a cross into the 6-yard box, Ueda's going to fight through 2 center backs to get his head on it.
But Moriyasu knows you need a plan B, right? And a plan C. And this is where the 26-man roster selection gets truly wild.
It really does.
He's introduced 2 massive curveballs into the squad, 2 21-year-old strikers who offer completely different profiles from anything else Japan has ever produced. First, there is Keisuke Goto.
Goto is a physical anomaly for the Japanese national team. He stands 1.91 meters tall. That's roughly 6'3".
A giant.
Yeah. He plays in Belgium for Sint-Truiden on loan from Anderlecht. And what makes him so unique is who he models his game after.
I loved this detail when I read it. He actively studies and attempts to fuse the styles of 2 very different players, Harry Kane and the Japanese legend Shinsuke Nakamura.
It is a bizarre, fascinating combination.
It really is. He wants the physical hold-up play, the back-to-goal strength, and the aerial dominance of an English number 9 like Harry Kane, combined with the technical free-kick striking ability of Nakamura.
He completely breaks the stereotype of the smaller, technically intricate Japanese player. Goto is a tactical battering ram.
How do you see him being used?
Think about the late stages of a World Cup knockout match. You are down a goal, the opponent is pressing high, completely choking off Wataru Endo in the midfield. You can't play out from the back.
Panic mode.
Right. But instead of stubbornly trying to pass through the press and turning the ball over, Moriyasu can bring on Goto. He can bypass the midfield entirely with a long ball from the goalkeeper and rely on Goto to win the first header.
Knock the ball down and cause pure panic in the penalty area.
Exactly. It gives Japan an ugly, pragmatic outball.
Okay, Goto makes complete tactical sense as a battering ram. But the second wild card is the one that really made me do a double take.
Kento Shiogai.
Yes, Kento Shiogai. He is a 21-year-old forward playing for Wolfsburg in the German Bundesliga. And here is the kicker. As of the official squad announcement, he has 0 senior international caps. None.
The 0 caps.
You don't bring a 0-cap 21-year-old to a World Cup. You bring proven, experienced veterans who won't freeze under the lights. Is Moriyasu being brilliant here, or is this just arrogant recklessness?
It looks reckless on a spreadsheet, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But strategically, it is calculated chaos.
Okay, explain that.
You have to look at why Wolfsburg signed Shiogai in the first place. They didn't sign him for his intricate passing. They signed him for his relentless pressing, his psychotic intensity, and his raw, unadulterated
So
pace.
he's a disruptor.
He is not in this squad to start matches and patiently build up play. He is Moriyasu's ultimate tactical wildcard.
This plays right into the super sub strategy we saw in Qatar, right? Where he brings on energetic players in the final 20 minutes to terrorize tired defenders.
Exactly. When the opposition center backs have been battling Ueda's physicality or Kubo's trickery for 70 exhausting minutes, their legs are heavy. Their decision-making slows down.
That's when you strike.
That is when Moriyasu unleashes Shiogai. His only instruction will be to sprint at the center backs with maximum intensity, chase every loose ball, and press the goalkeeper.
Wow.
He is weaponized energy. He is the human embodiment of the high press, designed to force a catastrophic error in the 85th minute.
Weaponized energy. I love that. So we have the century-long vision, the calendar shift, the chameleon system, the European forged spine, the tactical pivot due to injuries, and the wildcard youth.
That's quite a mix.
All of this theory, all of these whiteboards and spreadsheets are about to collide with the harsh, unforgiving reality of the pitch. Let's look at the gauntlet they have drawn in Group F.
Group F is arguably one of the most balanced and tactically diverse groups in the entire tournament.
It's a tough one.
Japan has drawn the Netherlands, Sweden, and Tunisia. If you look at the betting markets right now, the Netherlands are the clear favorites to win the group at Nagus 125.
Makes sense.
Japan is favored to finish second at plus 300. Sweden is lurking closely at plus 500. And Tunisia are the heavy underdogs at plus 1,300.
Let's walk through this gauntlet match by match because in a World Cup, momentum is everything. Match day 1 is June 14th in Dallas at AT&T Stadium.
A massive stage.
And it does not get any bigger than this. Japan opens against the Netherlands. The Dutch are ranked 7th in the world. They are perennial contenders, and they have an incredibly deep squad managed by Ronald Koeman.
This opening game will dictate the entire trajectory of Japan's tournament. The Netherlands are going to want to control the ball. It is in their Johan Cruyff-inspired DNA.
They want possession.
They do. They have midfielders like Frenkie de Jong and Tijani Reinders who dictate the tempo like metronomes. This is exactly where Moriyasu will deploy the chameleon tactic to its fullest extent.
Do you think they'll just sit back?
I fully expect Japan to happily cede 65% or 70% possession, drop into that disciplined low block, and frustrate the Dutch midfield.
The matchup that jumps off the page for me is in the penalty area. You have the Dutch captain, Virgil van Dijk.
A legend.
He is arguably the premier center back of his generation. He is a mountain.
Yeah.
And he is going up against Japan's target men, Ayase Ueda, and potentially the young giant Kaisu Goto later in the game. Can Japan's strikers actually survive physically against Van Dijk?
If Japan tries to play a traditional crossing game and just pumps high balls into the box, Van Dijk will head them away all afternoon. He dominates aerial duels.
So what's the plan?
The key for Japan is the geometry of the transition speed. When Wataru Endo dispossesses Frenkie de Jong in the midfield, Japan has to attack before the Dutch fullbacks can sprint back into position.
They have to isolate him.
Kubo and Doen have to isolate Van Dijk in space. If they can force Van Dijk to step out of his central comfort zone to cover the flanks, it opens a massive hole in the middle of the defense.
And that's where Ueda strikes.
Exactly. If Japan can drag Van Dijk out of position, Ueda has the clinical finishing to punish the remaining defenders. A draw in this opening match is a massive, massive victory for Japan. It sets them up perfectly.
So, assuming they survive the Dutch physical test, match day 2 presents a completely different, incredibly dangerous puzzle. June 21st, down in Monterrey, Mexico, against Tunisia.
This is the scary one.
Everything I'm reading points out that this is a classic trap game for Japan. Why? Because Tunisia plays a style that is the absolute kryptonite to a counter-attacking team.
Tunisia, managed by Sabri Lamouchi, is not going to fall for the chameleon trap.
They won't take the bait.
No. They are known for a rigid, compact defensive block. They are anchored in midfield by a veteran named Elias Shiri, who covers an enormous amount of ground, breaks up play, and rarely commits forward.
So they just sit deep.
Tunisia will likely refuse to attack Japan. They will sit deep, put 10 men behind the ball, and say, okay, you have the ball. Break us down.
And this is exactly the friction point we discussed earlier. Without Matoma's speed to force the defense to retreat, how does Japan, a team perfectly engineered to counterattack, break down a team that refuses to leave their own half?
It's a huge problem.
It's like two counterpunchers standing in the middle of a boxing ring refusing to throw the first jab.
It becomes a test of patience and creativity. Against Tunisia, Japan will suddenly find themselves dominating possession, maybe upward of 70%.
Which they don't necessarily want.
Right. This is where Takefusa Kubo has to earn his paycheck. He will have to operate in tighter spaces than he did against the Dutch. He needs to take players on one-on-one, draw fouls in dangerous areas, and create set-piece opportunities.
That's where his magic is needed.
And crucially, this might be the exact match where Moriyasu deploys the 1.91-meter Kaisuke Goto much earlier in the game.
Just launch it over the top.
If you can't pass through Tunisia's congested midfield, you bypass it with crosses to Goto. Japan has to be ruthlessly patient here.
Because if they get frustrated,
If they drop points against Tunisia because they get frustrated and overcommit men forward, leaving themselves vulnerable to a cheap counterattack, their final match becomes a terrifying do-or-die scenario.
and that final match is match day 3, June 25th, back in Dallas against Sweden. And Sweden arrives at this tournament with an absolute wild cinematic backstory.
Incredible story.
They finished bottom of their initial qualifying group without winning a single game. They fired their coach in disgrace. They snuck into the playoffs through the back door of the UEFA Nations League rankings.
Barely made it.
Barely. Hired former Chelsea and Brighton manager Graham Potter, and then miraculously qualified by beating Ukraine and Poland. They are a team running on pure adrenaline.
It is a phenomenal story of survival, and Graham Potter has completely revolutionized how they play.
What's his system?
He has instilled a very specific 3-4-2-1 tactical system. This system makes them incredibly fluid and dangerous going forward, but it leaves them highly vulnerable at the back, particularly in the wide areas behind their wingbacks.
The primary threat for Japan to neutralize is the Swedish strike partnership. It is lethal. You have Viktor Gyökeres, an absolute physical powerhouse who just scored a hat-trick in the playoffs.
He's on fire.
And Alexander Isak from Newcastle, who brings silky pace, technical brilliance, and loves to drift into the left channel. If you are Wataru Endo and Takahiro Tomiyasu, how do you mathematically stop that combination?
It requires absolute positional perfection from the Japanese defense. When Isak drifts wide to isolate the Japanese right back, Tomiyasu and Itakura cannot get dragged out of the center to help him.
Because that leaves Gyökeres wide open.
Exactly. If they vacate the center, Gyökeres will exploit that space instantly. Endo has to drop almost perfectly between his center backs to create a back three out of possession.
Sounds incredibly difficult to execute.
However, while Sweden's attack under Potter is incredibly potent, their defense is shocking. They gave up 12 goals in just 6 qualifying matches. Their center backs lack pace.
Which plays right into Japan's hands.
Exactly. If Japan can weather the initial physical storm from Isak and Gyökeres, the spaces behind the Swedish wingbacks will be wide open.
Ready for the counter.
When Sweden pushes forward, the counterattack should be available all day for Kubo, Doan, and the wildcard Shio guy to exploit in the final 20 minutes. Sweden struggles against organized teams that can bypass their midfield press rapidly. Japan is literally built to do exactly that.
So, synthesizing all of these match breakdowns, the tactical data, the injuries, the structural overhaul of the J-League, what is the verdict? Where do they finish?
If we weigh the balance of the squad, the pungent success of the chameleon philosophy against top-tier European opposition, and the sheer tactical discipline drilled into them by Moriyasu, I believe Japan will navigate this gauntlet.
You think they make it out?
I do. They have the defensive structure to secure a gritty result against the Netherlands. They have the set-piece creativity in Kubo to eventually break down the Tunisian wall. And they have the transitional speed to ruthlessly exploit Sweden's defensive frailties. I predict they will advance, finishing second in Group F behind the Netherlands.
I am right there with you. The data, the infrastructure, the tactical maturity, it all points to a deep run. So what does this all mean? Let's recap this incredible journey.
Let's do it.
We are looking at a team built not on the fleeting luck of a golden generation, but on the JFA's century-long infrastructural vision. They have literally altered their domestic sporting calendar to align with global physical demands.
It's brilliant.
They utilize a shape-shifting chameleon tactical system that can dominate possession against minnows or strike with 10-second vertical counterattacks against giants.
Total flexibility.
They're anchored by a spine of battle-hardened European elite veterans like Wataru Endo and Takahiro Tomiyasu. And crucially, even when rocked by devastating injuries to vertical stars like Mitoma, They have adapted.
They found a way.
They are relying on the creative genius of Takefusa Kubo in the half spaces, the clinical finishing of Ayase Ueda, and injecting the squad with the weaponized chaotic energy of a zero-cap rookie like Kento Shiogai.
And if we pull back to the macro level, to what you, the listener, can take away from studying this team, think about the Samurai Blue the next time you face a massive, seemingly insurmountable challenge in your own industry or your own life.
Oh, that's a great point.
They don't try to outmuscle the bigger, stronger teams like Sweden. They don't try to out-dribble the flair teams like the Netherlands. They are deeply self-aware.
They know exactly who they are.
Right. They adapt. They shift their shape to neutralize their opponent's specific strengths. They remain incredibly disciplined in their underlying structure. And they wait for the exact moment of vulnerability to strike. It is an absolute masterclass in leveraging your specific strengths against an opponent's specific structural weaknesses.
It's the ultimate triumph of pragmatism over ego. And it brings us back to that psychological barrier we hinted at earlier. Japan has reached the round of 16 at the World Cup 4 times in 2002, 2010, 2018, and 2022.
So close. Every time.
And they have suffered agonizing defeats, failing to advance to the quarterfinals every single time. It is a psychological glass ceiling that has hovered over this footballing nation for over 2 decades.
It's huge.
But if Hajime Moriyasu's highly engineered, meticulously planned system finally shatters that ceiling in North America, it begs a massive existential question for the rest of the world.
It changes the entire paradigm of the sport.
If a nation can literally engineer its way into the elite, undisputed tier of global football, not through a freak genetic lottery of talent, but through pure, unrelenting institutional discipline, structural reform, and ruthless tactical adaptability, who says the traditional giants of the sport will ever be safe again?
They won't be.
Remember that stunned silence at Wembley. The old hierarchy of global football dominance is breaking. Keep an eye on Dallas on June 14th. You won't want to miss it.